The Notebook on the Train. On a rainy Thursday evening, Emily, a young woman with a passion for literature, boarded her usual 5:30 p.m. train to her small apartment in the city. She had always found solace in the gentle sway of the train, the hum of conversations blending with the rhythmic clanking of wheels on tracks. She settled into her seat, opened her book, and let the world around her fade away. But today something was different. A man, perhaps in his early 30s, hurriedly entered the train just before the doors closed. He was drenched, a loose notebook clutched tightly to his chest. Their eyes met for a brief moment as he scanned the car for an empty seat. He finally sat down beside her, his presence undeniable even in the bustle of commuters. Emily couldn't help but notice his sharp blue eyes and the way he kept nervously adjusting his glasses. She returned to her book, trying to ignore the sudden flutter in her chest, but curiosity gnawed at her. A few minutes passed before the man, unable to hold back, turned toward her. "Excuse me," he said, his voice tinged with both anxiety and hope. "I know this is odd, but I think I dropped this." He handed her the notebook. Surprised, Emily took it, her fingers grazing him as she did. I don't think this is mine," she said, but as she opened the cover, the pages were filled with handwritten notes, poems, and sketches. It was a journal, one filled with fragments of a life, of love, of passion. The man seemed embarrassed. It's mine. It's not much, but it's the only thing that reminds me of someone I used to know." His eyes lowered, and Emily could sense the weight of his words, the sadness behind them. "I'm sorry," she whispered, unsure of what to say. But before she could hand the notebook back to him, she skimmed one of the poems. "This is beautiful," she said, genuinely moved. "Who was this for?" He smiled faintly, almost like a secret he wasn't ready to share. "Her name was Sophia," he said softly. "We were inseparable once. But time changes everything." A silence hung between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Instead, it felt like an unspoken understanding, as if the two of them had been waiting for this moment, this connection. The train rattled on, the rain pounding against the windows, but inside, it was quiet and still. Emily closed the notebook, placing it gently on her lap. I don't mean to pry," she began, "but do you still think about her?" "Every day," he replied, his voice distant, lost in thought. "She was my everything, and when she left, it felt like my world crumbled. I never thought I'd find something like that again." The train lurched, and Emily's book fell to the floor. As she bent to pick it up, their hands brushed again. This time the spark between them was undeniable. For the first time, Emily didn't feel the need to speak, but she could see the vulnerability in his eyes, an openness that matched her own. "I'm sorry for what you went through," Emily said, her voice soft. "But life is strange. Sometimes we meet people who change us, who make us believe in things we didn't before." He looked at her, his expression softening. "Like you?" he asked quietly, his gaze locking with hers. Emily felt her heart skip a beat. She had never been one for bold moves or quick connections, but there was something about him that felt right. "Maybe," she whispered, "maybe we're just two people who were meant to meet." The train finally slowed, signaling their stop. As the doors opened, Emily stood up, clutching the notebook in her hand. She turned to him, a smile tugging at her lips. "I hope you find what you're looking for," she said softly. The man smiled back, a hint of sadness still lingering in his eyes. "And I hope you find your story too." As she stepped off the train, Emily looked back one last time. The man was still there, his eyes following her as the doors closed, the moment between them hanging in the air like a whispered promise. Little did they know that brief encounter would change both their lives forever. For in that fleeting connection, Emily had found not just a stranger, but a kindred spirit. I hope this story resonates with you. It reflects the magic of unexpected encounters and the possibility of love finding you when you least expect it.